something inside of you, something inside of you that makes you beautiful, makes you you. Yeah. You're the sun that makes the flowers grow.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, whichever you choose to use, but great Sunday. It's really a good day outside, and it's really a great day here. I want to welcome you all to the Quintessential Queens Podcast right here on IntellectualRadio.com. We are an iHeart radio station. This is where you come for queens to be celebrated, elevated, and sometimes vindicated, but always educated. I got three wonderful queens here with me today, and we got a treat today. Our producer Earl Winfrey gonna be chiming in. What's going on, Earl?
Yes, Simon. You know what? I'm so happy to be here. We've been in business for 15 years. We've done topics on everything, but we've never done a show talking about people who've grown up in the project. So I'm really, really happy about this show, and I'm really excited and looking forward to it.
I want you all to know this show was actually Earl's idea. We were talking about it a year and a half ago, and I was thinking, I don't know anybody that grew up in the projects because the girls I do know, they don't like me because I'm falling victim to the stereotype too about what a project person is. So that's what we're here to break all of that nonsense. We're going to show you the results, the achievements, and that everybody is everybody. If you have it in your mind to achieve your dream, if you have it in your mind to climb to the top of mountains, if you have it in your mind to make it, it doesn't matter where you come from, you're going to make it. You're going to do it. And these three ladies and Earl gonna tell us how you all grew up, how you have resilience, and how you achieve the accomplishments you have. So let me tell you all who we got here first. This person right here next to me, this is Miss Helen Mix-Hollyfield. Ceola's been on our show before. This is Ceola Henderson-Bryant. Hello.
Hello.
And then we have the wonderful Miss.
Excuse me 1 second. Can you tell us where you're from also? When you tell us your name, I want to know what projects that you grew up in.
Oh, they're going to tell us. They're going to go right down the gamut, Earl. They're going to go right down the
I'm sorry,
gamut. See, this is what happened when the boss be
I
on the show.
apologize. I'm anxious. Can't wait. Okay.
I just wanted to get them out there first. Renetta Gunn-Stevens. And then Earl Winfrey. Earl, right, our producer.
Earl Winfrey.
All right. So we're going to start back down this way with Miss Helen. Helen, tell us who you are, where you grew up at, and what you're up to right now.
My name is Helen Mix-Hollyfield. I grew up in Abler, 1111 West Roosevelt. And when I moved there, I was 11. Yep, that was 1969. And when we moved there, it was so nice. I mean, we thought we had moved up like the Jeffersons when we moved. Because it was diversity. It was it was mixed, and we had swimming pool stuff I had never seen when I was a kid.
All right. Now that is that's a different outlook from what people's perspective is. So I'm glad you threw that in there. Ceola.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ceola Henderson-Bryant. I grew up in Abler, CHA housing. When we originally had gotten there, I was in preschool. So I went to John and Smith, and I couldn't have been no more than about 5. We lived in the 1209 housing facility, and Helen, my best friend then and now, lived in 1111. We really, really enjoy, like Helen said, something I had never really seen before is a fire station that housed a swimming pool. We had the small playground, the large playground. We walked through the playground to get to John and Smith School, which there were a lot of educators that came from the village. The teachers, Mrs. Reese, that I can remember was our 7th grade teacher. Curlin Reese. We'll never forget her. My mom Reese Cup. And it was just a great experience.
And Earl is over here nodding his head because what, Earl?
Same projects. Abla, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I grew up there as well. I was in 1239 South Racine. And that's cool that we're all represented with 3 buildings there.
Yes.
So we got 1239, we have 1111, and we have 1209. That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, but of course I went to John and Smith as well. But I don't want to say what year.
Okay. And they say we don't like to tell our age.
Okay.
Renetta, tell us where you grew up from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Renetta too. I'm sorry, with an R. It seems like you're saying Grenetta.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's okay. Sorry about that. But
And
yeah,
come a little closer.
yeah, I grew up in Cabrini Green projects, what they call the row houses. And what I remember is just a community feeling. Everyone knew everyone. You could borrow sugar, flour. You could get disciplined by your neighbor, and it was okay. And so I just remember it being just a community of people who had the same skin as me and who embraced, and we embraced each other.
See, this is good to hear. I don't think people know these things. I think I'm pretty sure that when people hear that, oh, projects, positive things don't come to their mind. They only want to think the negative because unfortunately society likes to focus on the negative, especially when it comes to us. I'm talking about Black people, brown skinned people. They don't want to focus on how wonderfully knit and how we make a community better. They want to focus on all the negative behaviors that we'll have another show about that, the negative behaviors and why they're that way and how the community doesn't want to help. I think if anything, you all might have learned to rely on yourself, save yourself, and you do things for yourself in the community. Helen, you were saying it was a different you never seen these things before.
No,
Tell me about that.
no. At 11, we always lived. As they call it, the ghetto. We always lived in the ghetto. So when we moved there, it was like we moved up. We had heat, and everybody, like she was saying in Cabrini Green, everybody got along with each other. Everybody knew each other. We made it like a big family.
It was a big family. Now, you said
Yes.
something about like you got there was a pool, there was heat. Tell me more about that. Elaborate on that part for me.
Okay, we had, like I said, we had the swimming pool. Like Ceola said, we had 2 playgrounds. And it was just, like I was saying, everybody got along. There was no violence. There was no fighting, none of that. We would go outside, play rope, jump rope till the sun go down. The guys would be at the park playing ball. I mean, it was fun time.
Good
Can
times.
I chime in real quick?
Yes.
If I remember correctly, there were 3 buildings, right?
Yes.
We had the big playground,
Yes.
but then every building had their own playground. So there's actually like 4 playgrounds for what I remember.
You're 100% right. Every
Building had a
Every-
little playground.
yes.
Yep.
Then we had the
Yes.
big
Yep.
playground where everybody can come together.
Comes together. Yes,
Right, exactly.
you're
So that's
correct.
how I remember it.
Yeah, you're 100%
right.
right.
You're
Yeah,
right.
every different housing had their own little entity of a smaller playground.
Exactly. With the
Yeah.
swings
Yep.
and stuff. And then we had the big playground.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And then we
was
had the
wonderful.
wall of your housing where we played strike 'em out.
Mm-hmm. I used to
Ew.
love that.
And we played piggy in the small playgrounds, and then we could all collaborate together and play. We played piggy,
Okay.
so it was like
Then right nearby there we had Fosco Park.
yes,
Yep.
And we were going ice skate in the winter.
yes.
Remember anybody ever ice skate in Fosco Park in the wintertime?
No, but did you ever skate in Damon Hall at
All the time.
the church? Yes.
Downstairs?
Downstairs.
Oh, it was a regular
Damon.
routine for us. Well, one of my favorite things to do was to skate in Damon Hall.
Yes, yes. That's where I learned how to skate in Damon Hall in the basement. Holy Family Church.
Holy Family Church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy Family Church. See, y'all conjuring up all these wonderful, good
Memories.
memories. If you all could, well, you can't see the smiles on their faces that how happy you
was
were
good,
growing up
yes,
and what
yes.
wonderful things you did. You actually did things children should do that, in some neighborhoods
Exactly.
we're afraid to do. Some people are afraid to take their children outside now.
Yeah.
And who's going ice skating? I might not ice skate, but I wouldn't mind roller skating. I
Oh.
wouldn't mind getting out there doing some of that. So you all were having big fun. That's what it sounded like to me. Big fun.
Yes.
Big fun. Tell me about growing up in the Greens, because that's so growing up, that's what we used to call Cabrini Green, the
Mhm.
Greens.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you had your row houses, and you had the white projects, and there was some red projects. And so it was also like 3 different communities that was right around each other. I went to St. Matthew's preschool there, and I just remember we would, I didn't know it was the ghetto in quotation marks, right? I knew that it was a lot of black people. I knew that the walls was cold and the floor was hard because you didn't have carpet and you had cold cement walls. But I just thought that was normal, being in the projects. I knew that we were different when one day it was New Year's Eve and I was a little girl, but I remember the police officers, they had circled us in so that we couldn't get out because they shoot on New Year's Eve, tradition, every neighborhood mostly. But I was like, well, why are they keeping us in and not letting anyone like pass the street? That was the only time though that I started knowing that something was different. But other than that, everyone got along. I even have some family members that was in Cooley High, the movie. It just really was. Now, mind you, I was little, so of course maybe the adults kept things away from me, but I still was observing to see that if there was any violence that was noticeable at that time, like the 1977 to 1985 range, it was really just people wanted to play ball, people wanted to hang out together. It was just really like a utopia of African Americans.
Y'all had the same experience?
Same experience.
Same experience. It
experience.
was.
We had the AMP grocery store right there.
Yes.
You remember we had
The
Newberry
laundromat.
Center.
Newberry. Oh yes,
Yeah.
Newberry
You go,
Center.
you had
Miss
kindergarten, play sports, and they had Newberry Center was a spot.
Yes.
So you get out of school when you look forward to going to Newberry Center.
Newberry Center, straight out the exit door, past the kindergarten room, straight over to
Yep.
Newberry
It
Center.
was incredible. Yeah, it was an incredible experience.
So what was Newberry Center? Tell us what that was and what it meant to y'all and what you all did there.
There was a lot of different activities at Newberry Center. We were able to learn how to play sports. I was really good, as Helen and I, in playing baseball and volleyball. That's what we got basically better experience at sports and even track. And like I know Helen attended Crane, correct, Helen? You attended Crane, but I had moved out of the housing facility and I attended Inglewood. So that's, my passion is the west side and the south side as well. But Newberry Center was very active and engaging young individuals in sport activities and just fun activities.
Can I just add one thing? Is that one thing that was great about growing up over there is we always had something to do.
Yes.
And I think that one of the issues that we have with
Yes.
these kids today is they don't have a lot to do, but we had so much to do. So by the time the end of the evening came, we were exhausted. We were tired. You know what I'm saying? We went to bed. We went to bed. You know what I'm saying? And they had to do it all again the next day. So we never had a lot of time to get into trouble. We were always involved in something.
Something. Yes.
And that's still a remedy. Like keep children busy, keep kids busy, always have something for them to do. And then those of you who got toddlers at home, we already know, take them to the park and tire them out. Let them run around so they can come in and go to bed.
Yes.
But I think it's very important what Earl is saying, that there's always some activity to keep you busy, but to keep you well developed and well rounded. We grew up like that too, playing piggy in the park, the water balloon and water gun fights. And I don't know how people feel about water guns. There's all this perspective about it, but we played with them. We played with throwing water balloons at anybody that came past. And it was just a fun time for us. We played outside too.
Yes.
We had plenty to do. Now, I didn't grow up in the projects. I grew up for a spell in Humboldt Park. We're not Puerto Rican. We are Black. And then we grew up right off Chicago Avenue. I had my grandmother lived off Ridgeway. I had an aunt that stayed right off Trumbull. We grew up right over there, the heart of the West Side. But we played outside. We sat on the porch. We played what's that? Rock teacher and all of those things. Hide and seek. Jacks, hopscotch, stuff that I don't see children doing anymore. I don't see them outside like that. I was double-handed.
Oh no,
They don't even know nothing about that.
I couldn't turn. That was me.
No,
I could just jump. Somebody would always, I'm a turn for you. That nobody does that anymore though. But that's how I grew up. You all are saying you're in the Newberry Center. You were skating. Tell me more about what meant something to you growing up in the Ambler Projects or the Housing Authority.
What meant the most to me was, like he was saying, we were able to play all day. Now everybody's in their phones. Nobody's even looking around them, you know. And that's scary alone. You know what I'm saying? That all the kids you look at now, they in their phones, the parents in their phones. I'm like, what's left for the kids? They don't have to remember anything. We have to remember what? We have to remember about
Phone numbers.
200 phone numbers in our head.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
remembered
I
them.
knew them all.
Yes.
I
You
knew
knew
'em
all the phone numbers.
We
My-
remembered them.
My grandma was elderly, right? And I was raised by my grandma. And
Okay.
she would always ask you, what's Gertrude's phone number? I told you these. What was the phone number? 89.
That's right.
That all in my head.
That's right.
It's amazing.
But see, they took away the kids' memory. You don't have to remember anything now.
Not just their memory, because
Yeah,
when I
ours too,
lose
yeah.
my phone, I'm like, man, and that's when I
We're
realize that
lost.
I
We're
have
lost.
nobody's number.
Yep.
I'm stuck somewhere right now.
That happens.
How
to
I'm gonna
me.
get out of here? But I did have a number in my head. My cousin Celia, I had her number in my head, so I was able to call her, and she was able to call somebody for me.
For
But
you.
it was an awakening for me that we have
Yep.
gotten very reliant on an electronic that if you get stranded and it dies,
Yes.
you stranded.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I do have an old fashioned phone book and that I keep with written numbers on it.
And we all should. We all
Yes,
should.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
very.
I
true.
have that because I was like, never again, never will I be stuck again. You were talking about when you were growing up in the Grange, you saw people who looked like you, and it was a community of Black people supporting Black people. Tell me more about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, so for me, it was about the safety because I was younger, so I wasn't there when into my teens. But I just remember that it was a certain code that you just did not hurt women, you did not mess with children. You know, we could be outside playing. We didn't have cell phones and beepers or none of that, and we were safe because we knew that the men as well as the women in the community they were going to make sure that we were safe versus today if you see someone in trouble people
Yes.
pull out their cell phones and they record versus then helping. So I just remember that everyone knew everyone. We respected adults. And like I said, your neighbor could whoop you, correct you, and the parent would not get mad. The teachers actually cared about you, like they were really nice. It was just really just safety. You know, as a little girl, I never felt in fear of my life. Even sometimes when I would visit my friends in the white projects and the elevator was out. Now you have to go up
Yeah.
the stairs, and the stairways was dark. But no one, I maybe felt fear of the dark, but not fear of the community. Because that's how safe I felt as a little girl in the projects.
And you know
So
what was
Yeah,
crazy? I'm
too.
going to say this right here is that you said something about the fact that other people could scold you, and that was cool. And you know
Yes.
what? And we were more concerned about them telling our parents than them scolding us
Yep.
because we know
Yeah.
what's going to go for not one whooping, going to end up being two.
That's right.
You know?
and so we grew up the
Just
same
don't
way,
tell my
but
mama.
but if we got scolded, it was gonna be two whoopings. There was no we gonna scold you and not tell your mother,
Right.
because that's how we grew up too. You know, Mrs. Lucky down the street, go talk to your mom. You know, I seen your daughter in the park with Ceola's babies in the
Yes.
park. She was supposed to be in the house. What you doing in the park now? Miss Lucky done got you in trouble. That's exactly how it was.
That's
True. We grew up the same way, exactly like that. That the people in the neighborhood could scold you, but I think the bridging part of that is everybody knew everybody.
Yes.
It wasn't like
Right.
it was just some stranger off the street bothering you. We knew everybody in our block, the next
Mhm.
block over. We had block parties and everybody came out. It was truly a community, which that's missing today. I don't see as many block parties at all anymore
No.
in any areas. I see some, but everybody had a block party. One Saturday in the summer, it
Mhm.
could have been the 600 block. Then the following Saturday, it's the 700 block, but we all knew each other. So when a person from the neighborhood scolded you and they told your mother knows who they are, or they told your dad or whomever, they know who that is. And that's why you're in trouble right there. But there was a community.
Yeah.
People actually cared about, everybody's child was everyone's child.
Exactly.
It wasn't
Exactly.
just you looking out for your kid. They looked out for every kid in that neighborhood and in the area. And
That's
it was the
right.
same way when I visited. And I didn't even, I didn't live in some of these communities, but we were over there so much. Everybody knew us, but it was the same thing. We're going to point out that, you acting up and something needs to be done about it. For your safety, though, for your safety. You were talking about safety. You felt safe there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what else did you feel there?
I felt, well, again, I wasn't over the age 7. So it's very limited of my understanding and conception. But I do come from a 2-parent home. Some of my best Christmases was there. I really felt like it wasn't diversity, I'll tell you that. So I didn't even really understand it was other races at that moment in time because I just did not see them. So for me, I just felt like it was just a very fun place. There were times, the only time I did hear gunshots was like on New Year's Eve. Other than that, it was just really go down to Miss Helen's house and ask her, do she got some sugar? I'm going to stay here on the hill. And I remember, I thought that hill was so big. And when I recently visited, like maybe 3 years ago, I was like, this is the littlest hill ever. But when I was a little girl, that hill was just, I thought that was the biggest thing that I can go down the hill and ask Miss Helen, did she have some sugar? And or ask Rose, did she have some sugar? So I just remember maybe like my first experience of independence there because like I said, your parents could let you outside. They can let you stay on the front porch and they didn't worry about you, even though they did not have any technology to track you or get in touch with you because the men there, no one looked at you sideways or funny. They didn't make you feel scary. It just was a code that we take care of our children. We protect our women. We protect our kids. That really was the culture.
Is
So what
that
I
some?
want, can I say something real quick? Ask a question. Did you ever at any time feel like you were poor? Because when we look back, we know that we were poor, but I never ever felt like I was poor until I actually got out.
Earl,
and looked
you
back.
still in my questions. You still in my questions. Because what I was going to ask is, someone had said, poor is the difference between poor and po. Poor is poor. You don't know till somebody tell you. You know y'all poor because y'all growing up over there, right? But I remember in school, a young girl asked me where we shopped at, and I was like, I got my clothes from Zare. She said,
Zare,
oh,
yes.
that's where poor people shop. It's like, oh, are we poor? Are we poor? I'm gonna have to go ask my mama, are we poor?
Or Robert Halls.
So then your perspective on that, did you all know that?
Yes.
Because
I
my
did.
next question with it was what was going on that you all ended up moving into the Greens or right off Racine and the Adler?
We were poor.
Okay.
And when we moved into the projects, like I said, felt, much better. We had a better home. But far as food, no. It was 11 of us. If all the older ones wasn't there, but from, let me see, I said about 6 of us was at home. And the older ones would bring us, money and food, but I felt very poor. And then one sad day, one of the neighbors, we lived in 905. They lived in 907, the Liggins. So we sitting in the kitchen, the windows right there on the porch. Right, Earl?
Right on the
Windows
porch.
are right there on the porch, so everybody looking in your window. And so one of the young men come by, they called him Mac. Mac looked in the window. He said, man, y'all having bings again? And that just made me feel so bad. To this day, I don't like bings because of that.
Okay, so you're saying you knew you were poor because food was scarce.
They had hot dogs and hamburgers and burgers and stuff. I would go to Ceola house. My best friend, her mom worked. My mom didn't work. My dad worked, but did he bring everything home? No. So I would go to her house and I felt like I was, rich. because I'm eating what they're eating. She's showing me different. Like, okay, this is a good friend.
And you grew up in the same housing, but a different building.
Yes, Helen lived in 1111. I lived in 1209. So I never felt like I was poor. My mother worked at Brock's Candy Company for 27 years. And basically, I'm gonna be honest with you, when I went to Helen house and I had beans, I thought them beans was good. So I have an older sister who's deceased. In fact, her birthday was yesterday. Happy heavenly birthday, Melinda. She would tell me, we live on the 10th floor, so that means you're closer to the sky and to the stars. So you can reach and ascertain anything you desire. And that stuck with me all my life. That just because you live in a housing, CHA housing, that does not predict what you actually are, or that's a part of you. It's a part of them. So it's like you can do and be whatever you achieve or aspire to be.
Say that again.
That's true.
Say that again for these people out here listening.
Basically, if you live in a project, that does not define who you are. It's just a matter of seeing how closer you are to the stars and how elevated and how much of an accomplishment that you can make within yourself, irregardless of where you come from. I tell my students that all the time. And
That's so
then
true.
having Helen as one of my best friends is just like a sister. We call each other sis. We don't even call each other by our names. For her to have elevated in the position that she's in at Jackson Hewitt for all these years is just amazing to me. And the person that she is, the giving heart that she has, is just absolutely and totally amazing to me. We've been friends for, should I say,
Oh no.
50 plus years.
Earl, now you can tell us what grade you in.
Or you can tell us what years you all lived there. Now, you said you were there 7.
Mhm.
Talk about when you all moved out, when you left.
Yeah, so we left because my father had started working at the steel mill, and my mother had actually got a job at the CHA Housing Authority, and so our income became too high for the row house. Because I think when we stayed there, I just asked my mom a while ago, and she said the rent was like $18 a
Oh
month.
my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah, and so once my father got a job and my mother got a job, then we was making too much income, so we had to migrate to Clybourne Street, which is still close to Cabrini Green. And then that was us leaving. But I just remember, like, even when I was there, I didn't know that we was poor until I actually got older with my kids, because I do remember my mom used to make alga syrup sandwiches for us. But as a kid, you getting 2 breads and some syrup, and it's thick.
That's right.
That was a
That was
treat.
good.
You didn't know
That's
that
right.
that was a pole meal. You thought that you been a good girl.
Well, you really going back with that. You going back with the syrup sandwiches, Miracle Whip sandwiches,
Yes.
mayonnaise sandwiches,
Yes.
bologna sandwiches,
Yes.
fried bologna
Fried
Right.
bologna.
with
That's
mustard.
Exactly.
That's the only way to eat it.
Yes. And so I just remember, like, when we did leave, even then it still hadn't dawned on me that we was like migrating to a upper status or anything like that. But I do definitely remember when we left that I would still see people that lives there. And even now, like when I'm in the neighborhood, it's still people that's in that neighborhood that I'm like, I remember you. Because
Wow.
some people have never left. They just, they're still there. So yeah.
Oh, unfortunately, all of our buildings have been torn down. So it's
Mhm.
part of UIC now. There's no more 1111, 1239, or 1209. They're basically either condos or part of University of Illinois.
Which to me is very, very, very sad. And it bothers
is.
me that I can't take my kids and show them where I grew up. It bothers me. Like our history has been just wiped out.
Isn't it?
If it wasn't for people like us, there would be no history.
That's right.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%.
That's why
right.
this show to me was so important.
Yes, Earl, you're 100% correct.
That's right. Because if you're feeling like history has been wiped out, because I didn't even look at it like that. You're right. You can't
Mhm.
take your kids where you grew up at. You can't show them how wonderful it was for you, and your history's gone. The buildings are gone, but your history's still here. So
Yes.
it is
That's
good that
right.
you all are still here and speaking, and why this show is important. Tell me about, again, like, do you all keep in touch with any of the friends you grew up with?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, we just the Pikes were a family that lived on the first floor. It's like 11 of them. We just met up with some of them like 2 weeks ago. Larry Pikes, and because I have other siblings as well, Tyrone, George, and Angela. And my brother George Henderson, he keeps up with
Everything.
everybody. He goes to everybody's reunion, everybody's graduation, everybody's funeral. Yes, he's there.
He's there.
He's there.
And then the thing, excuse me for
No,
interrupting,
go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
the thing that they do every year, they have a reunion, a project reunion.
Mhm.
So
In the
it's
big
coming up.
field.
Yes.
Mhm.
No, now it's over at what's that school on King Drive?
On King Drive.
Yeah, the
What
high
school is on
The
King
high
Drive?
school. The high school. Dunbar.
Dunbar?
Dunbar.
Oh, okay.
Yes, right behind Dunbar in the field. They have it every year.
Have they had it, or it's coming up?
I think it's coming up on the 18th. It's every August.
No, that sounds good.
Oh,
That's
okay.
great.
And
That is
that's where
great.
we see people that we haven't seen in 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Yes.
And it's amazing. I see some of them on Facebook, but it's amazing when we see each other in person.
So we've talked about how you all have grown up. Let's talk about your accomplishments, some of the wonderful things you all have done and are doing. We'll start. Renetta, you said I pronounced your name wrong. Let's pronounce it correctly for me.
It's Renetta.
Renetta. I had a G in front.
Mm-hmm.
Please forgive me, Renetta Gunn-Stevens. Renetta, tell me about, you talked about how you grew up and in a community and you felt safe. Let's talk about how all of that has flourished into the accomplishments you have today.
Absolutely. That's a great question. For me, currently, I am an international and celebrity book publisher. And that has influenced me because my main goal is to make sure that our culture is represented in books properly. And I really help my minorities to self-publish their book, because when you go through traditional publishing, sometimes it's more Caucasian owned. And so they don't understand our culture. So they can say, well, that story isn't really good enough. We don't want the cover to look a certain way. And it kind of stifle our creativity and culture because they don't understand our culture. This isn't anything bad about them, but it's just they don't understand. So it can take you sometime 3 to 5 years, if ever, for your story to be validated. But by me being an international publisher, I get to go to my culture and say, your story matters. I understand your story. I understand the language that maybe you're a character, because you got to even think about sometimes with editors, if they don't understand your culture, they will mess up the whole feeling and tonality of the character because they may say that's not the right grammar. Right. And so there's so many reasons why you need minorities in positions like that in the publishing field so that we can really navigate the story to the masses properly. And so I think because of that love for my community, I wanted to return the favor. And I didn't plan on being a publisher, but now that I am a publisher, I wanted to make sure that our stories are told, and that our stories is told in a positive light and in a validating light. And we're not waiting on anyone to tell us that our story matters. We're investing in ourselves and telling it, and they'll catch up.
Ooh, I love that. What'd you say? We're
That's
not
great.
waiting for validation.
That's right.
We're telling you the way it is, and we're waiting for you to catch up.
That's right. Validation is for parking only.
That's right.
Well,
Absolutely.
you did exactly that here today. Not the validation part, but making sure that your story is told and in a perspective that's important so that people can see I felt safe where I grew up at, regardless of what you thought about it.
Mhm.
people were looking out for us. There was a
Mhm.
community. We were safe, probably
Yes.
safer than we are right now, right?
Correct.
Amen.
Correct. D. Absolutely.
Now, you grew up, you moved out, Ceola. So I worked with Ceola for many years, y'all, in one of the neighborhood hospitals in the Austin community, on the behavioral health floor.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful working partners. Ceola worked in the back, and what did you all call yourselves?
That was part of
Like assessment and
yeah,
referrals.
like more so like the assessment and referrals, and we would bring the documentation up to our wonderful nurses after we did our assessments and referrals.
And that was collaboration. We had to work together to make sure we got the appropriate patients in the place, and that we can meet their needs, really.
Exactly.
So that's what we did there. So I want you to tell me about your accomplishments. You grew up, you had a wonderful upbringing and safe and having fun, in the Adler housing community. Tell us, you moved out, you grew up, you accomplished.
Okay. So basically now, working with other grassroots organizations on the west side of Chicago, from the west side to Inglewood, with the help of many supportive individuals, as Helen and my husband Raymond Bryant, we collaborate with the grassroots group organizations to collaborate and bring the youth and the elders together in the community. And piggybacking off of what you said before, is we used to have a lot of block parties. So now with the Safe and Peaceful Foundation and me being a Peace Fellow, 2023 Peace Fellow, it's like we can bring together and have block clubs, bring the youth, have peace circles, restorative justice. And when I go into the high schools, I try to do a lot of mindful meditation. Austin has one of the greatest and outstanding assistant principals and principals that I've met in the Chicago public school system. They're very big on mindful meditation and decreasing violence and increasing peace. Is just phenomenal.
What is mindful meditation and what is restorative justice?
Okay, like the mindful meditation is to have the different individuals to just sit back and think. Take your time and meditate. Be collective of yourself. Understand the decisions that you make are the decisions you have to live with. The mistakes that you make, or 5-second decision you make, as far as being violent, can cost you 50 years of your life. And then being able to do more of a restorative justice focus and or peace circles. Bill's Foundation on Harrison Street has a phenomenal way of being able to group individuals into understanding that when you do something unlawful, it affects everybody. Your family, the person that you inflicted this negative activity on, coupled with your community. You need to understand that there needs to be some type of restorative metaphors here to bring in the positivity that you actually need. Because our young men and women need to understand that violence is not the answer. So we're in the community, um, with the funding of the Safe and Peaceful Community, the Resilient Partners, to bring back restorative justice to our communities, to the youth as well as the elders in our community.
Oh, that's such a wonderful message that you're bringing, and such great, great work. The two of you are doing wonderful things. Renetta, Ceola, someone come right down here to my guest sitting right next to me, Helen. So I love the way you tell your story. How you said, I thought we were the Jeffersons when we got there. Other than the, like you were saying, you were eating beans all the time, but I thought we were the Jeffersons. We moved on up in the world.
Yes.
So you felt good growing up. So you grew up, you moved out, and you accomplished.
Well, I feel like I accomplished a lot. And what started when I was 13. I got my first job when I was 13. I went to the 5 and 10 cent store that was down Jewtown. Excuse me. And I told them that they asked how old I was. And I said 18. I was tall. They believed me. So they gave me a job in the restaurant part. So that started me off because I felt like I needed to, from being poor, I wanted to come out of that. I wanted to just work. And I just wanted to be somebody and build myself up and build my family up so we can eat what we wanted to eat. So when I got that job, the little paychecks, man, we had cereal, we had hot dogs, we had Polish, we had the sloppy Joe sandwiches, we had what the neighbors had. So I felt good. And that made me just keep striving and work harder and harder and harder. And that's what I've been doing. So for the last 24 years, I've been supervisor and manager at Jackson Hill Tech Service. And I talk with my customers. They all call me Mama Mix.
Mama Mix.
Mama Mix. They said, Miss Helen, you are our mother, our teacher. Because I talk to them and I tell them where I came from. And don't let this, what's going on now, the violence and stuff, stop them from moving up.
So that is the common message at this table. I'm always talking about climbing to pinnacles, and then you keep climbing. You know, the top of one mountain is the base of another.
Yes.
And if you got goals, keep climbing and reaching. And you were saying,
Yes.
don't let violence and what's going on stop you from reaching your dreams. Same message that you were sending us, and you want to tell our story the way we want it told. Some of those obstacles you were talking about never crossed my mind, never knew about. So you all are doing a great work here.
I have a question. Now, this question, you weren't going to ask this question. I know you weren't going to ask this question. How important, but tell me what Jewtown, how did that play a part of your life? Because I know Jewtown played a big part
man, that
in
was
my entire
big,
family's life.
huge
Jewtown.
part of my life. Every Sunday, walking across the field to get there and to see all these tables lined up with merchandise and
The sock man.
yes,
sock man.
yes,
T-shirt man.
yes. And I thought everything was just so cheap, and I would still try to, hey, can I get that for $2 less? I still try to get it cheaper.
That
You
is
know.
what you learned how to do
And you
down
know
there.
what? I think that everything that we own, and I do mean everything, came from Jewtown.
Amen.
It did. And then the
Amen.
Jewtown polishes. Oh my goodness.
How could you forget about that? You can't forget about that. I used to go down there with my cousins because they were a lot older, and it was still around when I was growing up. It was still there, but we were younger. But I used to go with my cousins, and that's where you learn the art of negotiation.
Yes.
That's what we learned
Yes.
down there, the art of negotiation.
Yes.
We'll sell it to you for 10. Now, how about sell it to us for 5?
Yep.
How about sell it to us
Yep.
for 5? And
That's it.
you can't get past the polishes. You know, we still talk about that today. They have little stands here and there throughout the city that still sell them. So it's like, oh yeah,
No
this,
comparison.
this is a huge part of our culture. So now it's not there anymore. I remember when they closed it, kind of like Earl was saying, wiping out history.
But now you
Yes.
know they have two stands like right off the 290.
That's right.
Right by Maxwell and Roosevelt. Well, and politically speaking, now they don't want to call it J-Town. They call it Maxwell Street. So,
Right. That's just, that's what we called it growing up. That's what the town was called. Yeah, politically speaking, I know it's something
Maxwell-
different.
Maxwell
Street.
Yes.
Maxwell Street polishes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
they were excellent. They're still there, and some of them are pretty good. The first one, I'm sorry. The first stand is better than the second stand.
But Earl, you forgot one thing.
What did I forget?
Taylor Street.
Oh, Taylor Street. Yeah, big time. The Italian Ice.
Oh,
All right.
just had one last week.
Me too.
Now, you know, I have a question. And you know
And the
what?
Al's beef.
And I've been wanting to ask this question for the past, 10, 15 years to people who grew up in the projects. So I've been holding my question in my head for a long time. I like to get the opinion. Everybody who grew up in the projects. So there's one question. Do you believe the projects could have been saved?
No.
Why?
No.
Too many people.
It got out of hand after the after 85, I think. got out of hand. It just started getting out of hand.
Yeah,
But what do you
Once
mean?
the
What do you mean?
cocaine came in, that
the
was it.
drugs,
The drugs, that
the
was it.
drug epidemic.
Okay, so why didn't the drug epidemic wipe out the, let's say, all the condominiums on Lakeshore Drive? A lot of people.
Oh, but that was more of a upper echelon individuals with a different framework of mentality, probably because they're in the housing. It would have destroyed too many of our babies because they would have thought that was cool being able to consume drugs and to nod and to just be spaced out. And I just don't think that probably would have been a good fit for our youngsters.
And to me, you can't compare that with downtown because downtown, the people down there, I mean, they kind of high class people. They got money. And, so they're doing theirs and they're staying functional. They're keeping their
Yeah.
jobs. They're not
Yeah.
losing their jobs or anything.
Would have
But-
probably been too many overdoses as
Right,
well.
exactly.
We would have
Renetta, you were
lost
gonna
too
say?
much of our generations.
I believe the projects could have been saved, but when they was building community, I think we overlooked building the leadership. And so because there wasn't the leadership there and there wasn't the entrepreneurship and the exposure to the power of the little bit we had, if we came together and networked, then it could have been saved. I think if you see now, it's gentrification. And so the same area is now being used for 4 times the amount of rent and things like that, where they actually pushed us out, but they still had a
True.
contract where they had to have some of us there. It could have been saved, but there was not the proper leadership and there was not the proper wisdom on how to bring our money together. Because there is a certain pride that we all have of being there, but no one taught us how to fight for our territory.
Okay, y'all, we running out of time. We got one call. We want to take this call, but I just want to just say that I believe they could have been saved. I think that there was all somebody's plan.
Yep.
And they wanted their real estate.
Yeah,
True.
That's
Please-
right.
Please take that call.
Gentrification.
Please take
That's
that call.
right. Okay. I just hit this call. Hello, caller. Thank you for calling in to the Quintessential Queens. Tell me who you are and where you're calling from.
My name is Cheryl Sistrunk. I am an ex-tenant of Chicago Housing Authority. I lived there over 25, 30 years on 53rd and State. I was listening to the broadcast and listening to you talk about Adler and Cabrini, but definitely when you talk about Robert Taylor, you have to start all the way from 53rd and State, all the way to the Hillards. You got to talk about the Ickeys, the Stateway, Dearborn Homes. And I was listening to Mr. Winfrey say, do you believe that the Robert Taylor projects could have been saved? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. The reason that Robert Taylor was torn down is because of the millions of dollars that was made in the projects that white America didn't have access to. All of the drug trade, all of the heroin that was being sold, all of the cocaine that was being sold, they were upset that they could not market and come into all of that money that these young Black men and women were making every day, probably making $1 million a day. So they came up with the concept that what we will do, we will tear the buildings down. You have the choice to either stay in Robert Taylor, Chicago Housing Authority, and move to a lower location, or we will give everyone a CHA voucher. And a lot of people decided to move into the little row houses, and then maybe 50% of the people decided to take the housing choice voucher. I decided to take the housing choice voucher because it gave you a chance to experience Chicago the way that white America have always think that we never saw it. I didn't hear the broadcast in the beginning to know if y'all know that we won every award in Chicago Housing Authority, all over every unit, every building. with the horticulture that was there. We had the best flowers. We had the
Yes.
best grass. We had the best everything.
Yes.
And one thing about Robert Taylor, even though the buildings are gone, the people are still there to tell the story. And what I love about you guys sitting at the table today on Intellectual Radio, you're able to tell it. But a lot of people don't remember it the correct way. And I'm only 53, but I lived in the buildings as a little bitty girl. And I never thought, as some of you ladies said, I never thought that we were poor. I thought that was the best living in the world. I thought that was the best living in the world to pay $18 rent, $40 rent. You know, we had the little food stamp books. They could go across the street to Starlight on 53rd and State and get our meat. They had the best stores right there in the project for us. They had the best dental across the street at 53rd and State. 45th and State is still there with the best dental services. So we, in the poor areas, they had the best dental, the best vision, the best medical, and the best grammar schools. Mary C. Terrell, DuSable High School, Farron, Dunbar, Phillips.
Yes.
They were the best high schools. And if you're looking back over it now, Phillips is at the top tier, even though the community of all of the buildings that had surrounded Phillips is gone, but they came back to be upper echelons because of their basketball that is over there. So you ladies are doing an amazing job. But the next time that y'all do Robert Taylor, get y'all one person from every building.
We'll try our best. We will try our best. We sure will.
But y'all doing an amazing job. But the only reason that Robert Taylor wasn't sold is because it was not saved. Is because white America wanted half of the money that they was getting down there selling weed, cocaine, and heroin. Now, if you look at 2020, how now all of our young men and women has went to jail for selling weed, but now white America done made it legal for to have all this weed being sold. You know why? Because they wanted to market on Black Death. I remember Tyrone Muhammad say Black Death is a hustle. And they have locked up and killed so many of our people that live in the project about the same very thing that they selling on every corner that you walk up and down the street.
Teach the lesson.
So they wanted to take control of the buildings, and they couldn't do it because them young Black men stood together, whether they was gangster disciples, Black disciples, Cobra Stones, they still stood together against the white America power structure, and that is the reason why
Miss
they
Cheryl,
tore these buildings down.
Miss Cheryl, I want to thank you. Thank you for giving us these points, and we're gonna have to continue this conversation again. We're not done with this. We are not done with this. Ladies, I want to invite you to come back when we get a day where we can talk more about exactly what Earl was saying. Could they have been saved?
Great.
Excellent. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Quintessential Queens. I want to thank my guests, Helen, Ceola, Renetta, Earl Winfrey, our producer, Wanda B. Wonderful to see you. Speaking with Dee, thank you all for watching today.
Thank you, everyone. One time. For the babies on the south side, the east side.